August 10th, 1793. Formerly a palace, the Louvre opens as a museum, so you can see art where French kings used to hang out without pants. We'll say that. We'll blame that and not me playing dinosaurs for 3 days straight.
Okay.
Welcome to the review.
Playing dinosaurs, like the sitcom Dinosaurs?
Yeah, no, playing the sitcom Dinosaurs.
It was a great sitcom.
I mean, it was okay.
Oh, I loved it.
I loved it too, but I was also like 5. I was like right in the target market for it.
Did you know that sitcom's last episode is literally the end of the dinosaurs? Like, it's the apocalypse and all the dinosaurs die?
I remember that, yeah.
That's true. That's 100% true. You can look it up. Yeah, the last episode is that the world is ending, and it's kind of a climate change thing, not an asteroid, and it's just like the last scenes of that show are like all of the family preparing to die, including the baby.
Jesus Christ.
Welcome to the Revisionists. I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers. I don't know if we included that dinosaur talk.
We are now.
We gotta laugh.
I'm including that at the top. And we have a very special guest in all the way from New York. Please welcome Caitlin Rupert, everyone.
Hey.
Caitlin, thank you for being here.
Of course.
Now, I want to get back to this dinosaurs finale real quick. Do they don't show them dying, right?
I don't think I've seen it, or if I have, it's been a long time. I think the last scene is literally them like huddled together as the world is ending outside. Like it's something akin to a nuclear winter.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but like they all know. It's like that scene in Toy Story where they're going towards the incinerator. And then it cuts. Like, imagine if Toy Story 3 cut right there. That's the end of Dinosaurs, the sitcom.
Jesus. Oh, God damn it.
And we wonder why we are the way we are after that's what we were watching.
Yeah. So
I can't believe that. That's amazing. I kind of want to see if Dinosaurs is streaming anywhere now.
People forget that. They forget that the original finale of Full House was Michelle kills her family in their sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Charles in charge. There's probably a mass
He sells all the children to sex slavery. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. The last Happy Days, of course, when the diner they all hang out at accidentally gets a bad batch of food and they all die of poisoning. Except for Ron Howard's character, who has a child afflicted with thalidomide. Yeah, it was a weird...
Right. And of course, the last episode of MASH, where they fast forward 40 years to a PTSD support group. Mm-hmm. Yeah, classic sitcoms. Well, listeners, if you're new to the show, we don't talk about the awful endings of old TV shows. What we do, each episode, we take a topic from history. One person presents the official government-sanctioned, you may remember, I'm going to cut that part out, version of events. And another person comes up with the crazy, bonkers, batshit alternate history. And then the winner gets to become the truth going forward of this wonderful little planet called Venus. Again.
Leaning on my shtick a little bit with that.
Yeah, I didn't want to steal it from you completely, but I was already halfway into it. If you checked out the previous episode, Griffith J. Griffith, still have trouble saying that. The alternate history won the listener vote by a landslide I, frankly, was not expecting. And that may be bias, having done the actual history. But definitely alternate history by a landslide.
Yeah, there was a little controversy in the room because I feel like it did sort of besmirch the reputation of a woman who had an attempted murder committed on her a little bit.
Yeah.
But, hey.
By making her, like, a poisoner, I think, who was working with the Pope to
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it was only an attempted murder and not a successful one. I mean, I guess now it was neither, really.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Thank you to Noah Reynolds for that.
But I voted for that alternate too, so no shade on that one, listeners.
That's fine. That was just I didn't mean to bring up any past controversies.
Go listen to that episode if you missed it. It's our most controversial episode ever. It's almost certainly not.
I would put it up there. I would put it up there mainly because both you and I are way too passive to actually get engaged in any controversies.
Oh, really? Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's why we need...
I am nothing but controversy.
Now,
first of all, let's start talking about this moon landing bullshit. This week,
the moon landing. That's your, like, source of controversy in 2019. Like, Kubrick staged the moon landing. Nobody gives a shit anymore about moon landing. Get onto QAnon at least. Pizzagate, something fresh.
Yeah, I got all these old fucking stale... It's not a controversy, it's just a conspiracy theory. There's a huge difference.
Even birtherism and Benghazi are passé at this point, much less the moon landing conspiracies.
Yeah, no, I'm not about to get started on some fucking birtherism. Thank you very much.
I just like the one where the newest where it's Trump probably has syphilis. And he's just had syphilis for so long now it's eating away at his brain. I'm like, I love that one.
I would buy that.
It's like the Al Capone theory transposed for the new generation.
Yeah.
It's popularly believed, that Al Capone had syphilis and it started to eat away at his brain later in his life.
It's like if Al Capone was a worse person somehow.
Yeah.
But still had like the same cult of personality he kind of does now anyway.
Yeah, I mean...
that's my hot take. Don't understand worshiping mobsters. Anyway, this week we're continuing down our discussing Hollywood true crime. Jesus Christ. Guys, if you ever stop drinking, I highly recommend babysitting for several days in a row because it is the same as getting super plowed.
Yeah. Now, I've been a nanny. I call it mom brain.
Oh, God, yeah.
So you like literally your brain just stops working like a normal human because you've just had children screaming you their name for way too many hours in a row.
My wife and I both were like talking at each other like we were both 4-year-olds for like an entire night after he left. Anyway, so this week we're talking about Thelma Todd. Zach, you were doing the true history.
Yes.
And Caitlin, you're doing the alternate.
Yup.
All right.
Hey there, this is Brian, reminding you that The Revisionist is supported by listeners just like you. You can make a pledge and get rewards like shirts and even the right to vote over at patreon.com/therevisionists.
Zach, whenever you're ready, take it away.
This is a case of we are doing our Hollywood True Crime podcast. Disclaimer, this is a case of maybe crime? Like, it's not entirely clear that there was or was not a crime. There's just a few suspicious outliers, but it's possible it was fully an accident or somewhat less likely a suicide.
Yeah, right.
I don't,
Not buying
accident,
it.
maybe suicide. I don't think there's a lot of evidence for that. So, Thelma Todd was born July 29th, 1906. In Lawrence, Massachusetts.
Wait, hold the fuck. Where did you suddenly turn on that voice from?
That's the game show voice. That's how you announce when people are born.
Oh, okay. Fine. I'll take it. Whatever.
It's my new thing. It's an affectation I picked up to have people
when you got hit
remember
in the
me.
head with a bunch of coconuts and some...
Yeah, precisely. I went on a deserted island and a coconut hit me and I forgot where I was.
But remembered only this story from history.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all I remember in my life is the story of Thelma Todd. I don't have anything that happened after 1935. Spoiler alert about Thelma Todd. I do not know.
Anyway.
Yeah, she was born in Lawrence, Massachusetts. As a youngster, she was considered pretty bright. She did well in school. She wanted to be a teacher. And in her late teens, she started entering beauty pageants, and she won dem bitches. And in 1925, she became Miss Massachusetts. Possibly the least, as far as I know, she was not drunken, and she did not enter any fights. Possibly the last time that's true of Miss Massachusetts. And she was spotted by a big Hollywood talent agency who was like, "Kid, you got the goods." And he sent her out to Hollywood, where she began acting in films. It was still the silent era at the time. Mm-hmm. And during her career in silent films, she was mostly just set dressing. She didn't do a lot of acting. She was just like as they might have said at the time, a pretty dame to perk up the picture. I don't know how they talked.
A lot of alliteration.
Whatever.
That's
Yeah, they had bowler hats and canes and shit.
history podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, they were pushing hoops with sticks and like, look at that dame, she's got gams for days, like stuff like that.
Polio.
So that was
etc.
exactly.
She was
That
the
was
only
exactly
one without polio. That's why they put her on.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
her gams were so great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No polio, no
Yep.
rickets. Yeah.
they called them non-poles at the time. She's like a real non-pole dame. She's walking all over town because her ability to walk has not been robbed by the scourge of our time, polio. So she worked when the talkies came around. She started getting a little bit more, as you might expect, speaking roles. And
Weird how that happens.
yeah. But even in the silent pictures, like she wasn't relied on to act or emote much. She just kind of stood around. Now she's actually doing stuff. And she seemed to have a career mostly in comedy. She worked initially with comedy stars like Laurel and Hardy. And also Wheeler and Woolsey, who I don't know as well. They have not survived the ages as much as Laurel and Hardy have. She worked with them in a movie called Hips, Hips, Hooray! So that was one of her features.
Yikes.
She was paired with a woman named Zazu Pitts that in like an attempt to create kind of a female Laurel and Hardy. Obviously, 4chan wasn't having it, but nonetheless, they attempted to make the movie. They made the movies all the same, the shorts. The first short they made was just called Let's Do Things and came out
God
in...
damn it. I want to go back and like sell movies in the 30s because it sounds so easy.
That came out in 1931. In 1933, Zazu Pitts was replaced by Patsy Kelly in their comedy duo. And for the next couple years, they continued to make comedy shorts like Beauty and the Bus and An All-American Toothache.
What? Was that Beauty and the Bus?
Beauty and the Bus and An All-American Toothache.
What makes a toothache all American?
And what makes that like a movie?
It doesn't believe
what
in socialism?
story is there?
Yeah. The toothache was caused, it says here, by white supremacy and anti-immigration rhetoric. So,
Checks
Oh,
out.
okay.
Checks out. Okay.
yeah,
that-
there you go.
There we go.
Mm-hmm. In both of these pairings, Thelma Todd was usually the straight man trying to put up with the shenanigans of her ditzy co-worker or assistant. So that's kind of the dynamic in those films. At one point, she worked in a movie called Courier, where she met a man named Roland West and began dating him. However, prior to meeting Roland, she was briefly married to a man named, for 2 years, to a man named Pat DeCoco. He was a Hollywood producer and also, allegedly, a mobster and part of Lucky Luciano's gang.
Fun.
So-
okay.
Yeah. She appeared in other films with some pretty people whose names resonate to this day. She was in a couple Buster Keaton films.
Mhm.
She was in the original version of the Maltese Falcon, not the Humphrey Bogart one. And she was in some Marx Brothers film, including
Which is-
Monkey Business.
Which is how I know her from. I think it was Horse Feathers was the one I first saw.
She's
her
also in Horse
Yeah.
Feathers, yeah. She's in Monkey Business. She's in Horse Feathers. In 1933, she opened a cafe near her home, Thelma Todd's Cafe. It was very popular. Celebrities and tourists frequented it. And in 1935, she did her last film with Laurel and Hardy, a movie called Bohemian Girl. But most of her scenes were ultimately reshot and a lot of her dialogue redubbed. She only exists in one dance sequence in the final version of the film because before the film premiered, she died on December 16th, 1935. I should say December 16th, 1935.
There we go, thank you. I also did look up the plot synopsis of All American Toothache, And apparently Thelma Todd volunteers her friend to be the subject of dental practice by like a guy she likes who's just, like studying to be a dentist. That's it.
Yeah, it sounds like a 30 Rock plot.
Yeah, it sounds like not like a fucking movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, these although short. I should say they're shorts. Yeah, the longest one was like 27 minutes. They're usually like 15 to 27 minutes.
Okay, so it's not like fucking Avengers Endgame.
No, yeah, it was not a 2 hour and 20-minute exploration of like illegal dentistry in the United States. They didn't make like When They See Us, but like it's about your friend goes to a bad dentist. So on December 16th, 1935, it's kind of turning into the movie phone guy.
A little bit, yeah. That might be copyright infringement.
The tone and delivery of the movie phone guy?
It might be. I don't know, dude.
All right. Well, that seems very, very legally difficult to me. But,
you know what? Fuck it. Let's do a test case.
Yeah, we've done a lot of Crypt Keeper on this show, so you better hope that like that kind of copyright does not exist. So, speaking of, she was found dead in her car.
It's not even a pun.
She was found dead in her car in not her own garage. It was actually the garage of Jewel Carmen, a former wife of her current lover, Roland West, who I mentioned earlier, a fellow actor who she met on Courier. This home was 1 block away from her cafe that she had opened. And what they knew of the days leading up to her death, the most recent known whereabouts of her, was that on the evening of Saturday, December 14th, remember, she was found on the morning of the 16th, she was at an upscale restaurant in Hollywood. She was at a party hosted by a couple of fellow actors. At that party, she was noted to have had an unpleasant exchange with her former husband, Pat DiCicco. D-I-C-I-C-C-O. How would you pronounce that? DiCicco?
D-I-C-I-C-C-O? DiCicco?
DiCicco, that makes sense. Pat DiCicco, let's call him that. Who you may remember was possibly a mobster. She was driven home on the early hours of December 15th by her chauffeur, Ernest Peters, who, as far as I can tell, is not a suspect. Obviously, she died at a different location the following day. She was in good spirits at the time. There's no reason to believe that she was a victim of suicide. Her death was, by the LAPD, decreed accidental. There were no signs of struggle, save for one small contusion on her lip. And there were additional coroner's inquests and a grand jury probe, both of which came back with the idea that the death was purely accidental, possibly suicidal, though the speculation seems to be that she might have been warming up her car prior to leaving the garage and
wasn't her nose broken too?
I did not read.
Oh, I read that. Her nose was broken.
Mm-hmm. I think the people who argue that it is accidental.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, for some reason that was not included in the source I saw.
Yeah, I had to read more than one. They didn't have it in every one.
From what I've seen, the people who argue that it was accidental say that when she passed out, like her steering wheel was metal.
Right.
Basically, like, so she fell forward and hit it, which is plausible. But yeah, it's a pretty big detail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, but ultimately, there have never been any like conclusive evidence to prove who or how she died. I believe the working theory is that she was having a liaison with Roland at the house of Jewel Carmen. Did I get that right? I researched this a couple days ago, so a couple of these notes are
from what I remember, that seems right.
Yeah, and that is why she was there. But
look, if you ask me a question about fucking Stegosaurus, I am on that shit. I can't fully back what I'm saying about the facts of this case.
Yeah, it's also noted that it's believed that Lucky Luciano got her hooked on amphetamines. Mm-hmm. It's possible that they may have played a role in her death. I don't think the coroner's autopsies at the time were particularly thorough. I don't think they were able to determine the use of drugs in the system in the way they are now. So it's possible that she was extremely high, passed out in her car. But I don't know that. I mean, Do you guys have any other details about the actual night of the death? Because that is kind of the end of what I was able to find on my initial source, and I had a very busy weekend.
It was the broken nose, but then also I think there was a few more bruises too. Like there were like quite a few bruises, like around her neck and maybe on one of her arms or something. It was the kind of thing that you're like, wait, she beat herself up and then killed herself? That seems a little odd.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I'll just go with you on that, because again, pterodactyls. That's...
Yeah, I mean, there's different accounts. Okay. There's accounts that Todd eventually gave up on alcohol, though she was an alcoholic for a long time. The veracity of that is mixed. It's from a book. It's not, I don't know that it's firsthand. But yeah, her interactions with DeChico and Luciano were pretty violent. There's one account of Luciano forcing a bottle of champagne down her throat when she refused to have a drink with him.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
So, yeah. Fun fact, Lucky Luciano was not a good guy.
Yeah. With a name like Lucky Luciano, how can he not be an asshole? Don't come at me, listener L. Luciano from probably fucking Long Island.
But yep, a lot of the details of her last night are vague, unknown. Witness accounts are not very helpful. And that is the story of Thelma Todd and her death.
Coming to you from the X-Axis, it's John of All Trades with your host, John X.
Welcome to this John of All Trades podcast promo. Each Wednesday, I bring you a brand new interview with someone fascinating and ask the question we all ask when we meet someone new. Hey, what do you do? It's fun, informative, and it's the 2017 Westward Reader's Choice Award winner for Best Denver Podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, and johnofalltrades.us.
Caitlin, whenever you're ready.
Okay. All right. So here's what really happened. Let me just lay this out for you. First of all, Thelma Todd never even really cared about being an actress or any of that stuff. She came from a family of all criminals. Like her dad, one of the biggest criminals in all of, we might even be able to say the world. He was like,
wow.
He was a pretty bad guy. But,
like a Carmen Sandiego type.
Yeah. So she grew up, just like loading pistols, killing people. Like she was like a full-on assassin type chick. And the only reason she did the actress stuff was so that she could cover up for it, Because like who would think that this beautiful actress was also like a badass? So anyway, here's what happened with the death and all that. So what she was doing, the reason she was with Lucky Luciano was because she was actually helping him run an underground prostitution ring. Yeah. And so like she was all into this, but she also still did kind of like that whole like, famous, pretty women kind of thing. So she had a particular liking for some of the girls that she would be like, I'm taking you under my wing. And one of which was this very young woman named Marilyn Monroe. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So she took Marilyn Monroe under her wing, and she was grooming her and training her. But let me tell you, Marilyn, also crazy. She was nuts. So then at the time, Thelma, she was dating FDR.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because she had a thing for president.
And she had a thing for president. And there's really only one at a time you could go for.
Right.
There's not a lot of fish in that pot.
She could.
We've already established that Thelma Todd was a famous non-polio, and opposites attract.
I know, exactly. She was like,
It's like that fucking sitcom, The Odd Couple, where one of them has polio and the other one doesn't.
I mean, she had a weird fetish. When you grow up running sex rings, you're just like, I've seen it all. Give me the one with polio. I'll have sex with him.
To quote our good friend Byron Graham, Franklin Roosevelt, old Frankie Dangly Legs.
Yeah. She was into that. But yeah, so she was into presidents. She was grooming Marilyn. Marilyn saw all this stuff. In fact, crazy thing, Todd actually taught her that song, Happy Birthday, Mr. President.
Taught it to her?
Yeah, that was her.
She wouldn't have figured it out on her own.
No, that was a Thelma Todd original. And it was original.
I have Happy Birthday, and I know it's the president. How do I get these two together?
How do I make this work? And you know what? I'm going to say a lot of people liked it. when she did it for FDR, nobody heard it. And she should have, known. She should have been putting this out just like Marilyn did. But
No,
of course, like I said, Marilyn, she was a sneaky ass bitch. So she knew. She knew. So anything, what ended up happening was, at some point, and this is way before Kennedy was even president. In fact, Thelma helped him become president because, again, she liked presidents, so she wanted to, she was like, "You should be
you gotta
president."
have more presidents, and it's better if they're
Right,
more handsome
right.
than Richard Nixon.
So they had a thing, and they were like hot and heavy, and Marilyn knew about it, of course, because she was like in on the in crowd, but like she was too young for him. He wasn't into children. It was a whole thing. She wasn't ready for the sex ring yet. Oh, also, I should mention this about the sex ring. First of all, that cafe was just for money laundering. That wasn't a real cafe. And also, basement of the cafe, that's where all the prostitution was. I mean, where better?
We're getting close to Pizzagate here a little bit.
It's a bit Pizzagate-y.
A little bit.
But okay, so here's what ended up happening with the JFK FDR sort of thing. So she started kind of seeing JFK on the side. Marilyn had a crush on him for a long time. And so Marilyn ended up killing Thelma Todd.
Oh,
yeah. Shit. So there's this crazy thing too where, hold on. Let me see my notes about this. Oh, okay. So Marilyn was also trained to fight. That's why she was so good at fighting and killing her and then making it look like a suicide. And she was trained by that old ass dude who ended up training the guy for Rocky.
Burgess Meredith.
Yeah, that's why he was so old. He was actually born in the 1900s. People don't even know that. It's nuts. But anyway, so that's why she was so good at that. So when she killed her, it was because she was jealous of her relationship with Kennedy. So then the story gets a little crazier. It leaves the Thelma Todd portion of things because then when Marilyn started seeing JFK, she got a little too tipsy one night, right? And she was like, "Oh, by the way, BT dubs, I actually killed Thelma Todd." And JFK was like, "What? I loved her. She was the greatest. I can't believe it was you that killed her." And then, of course, for revenge, JFK kills Marilyn Monroe. Boom, done.
Oh, wow. And of course, first of all, on a podcast famous for bad impressions, I want to thank you for not trying to go into a JFK, because it always comes out Quimby for me. But sorry, Zach, you were saying?
No. Did you establish what year in this version of the story? Was Marilyn Monroe still born in 1926?
No, she was born alive.
But yeah, she was a kid. She was a kid. She wasn't. She was,
oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the timelines are a little messy, but we're gonna have to go ahead and say it doesn't matter that much.
9-year-olds. I've seen enough movies to know. I've seen enough Children of the Corn to know 9-year-olds can kill people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Sorry, I'm going to cut out that stillborn joke. Also, Jesus Christ. Sorry, go on. Anyway, if you have.
Oh no, that was the entire story.
I'll cut that. Caleb, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's taking everything within me to not break out of JFK right now. Chowda. Anyway.
Chowda.
There we go. Just a little Susan of JFK. Listeners, before we get to judgment, if you've ever wanted to write us a letter or ask us a question or see our faces, you can do that at revisionistpodcast.com or visit Revisionist Podcast on Facebook or Revisionist Podcast on Twitter, at Revision Pod on Twitter, Revisionist Podcast on Instagram. There we go.
Or visit our homes.
Yeah. Don't do that. That's fine. We don't need that. I don't want anyone letting the cat out or murdering me in my sleep. In that order.
We live at 12 Boogie Woogie Avenue.
God damn.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, okay. Great. We're also a proud member of the Denver Podcast Network, which just helped put on some great stuff for the Outlier Podcast Festival. So check out the shows on that network, denverpodcast.net. Galen, you're going to be out of Denver by the time this airs on the 10th, but people can follow you on social media, right?
Yes, they can follow me on Instagram at Caitlin Rupert, CaitlinRuppert, and that's the same on Twitter, Caitlin Rupert, and I'm a comedian, so Twitter's all jokes, and I'm a female, so Instagram's all thirst traps. And if you want to listen to my podcast is called Pod After Lockup, and we have an Instagram for that as well, and we have a fun Facebook group. And if you watch Love After Lockup, which is the trashiest of trashy TVs, about people who are getting out of jail and getting in relationships with people they met while in jail, we do a recap podcast about that, and I do that with Shannon Lee, who works for Gas Digital.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's Pod After Lockup, and in a way, a plug for Love After Lockup.
Yeah.
What channel is that on even?
It's on WeTV.
That makes sense.
Everybody's like, what channel is that?
Zach is also the former host of a podcast that recapped a trash-ass TV show.
Oh, which one?
The Royals, which was E's first scripted drama.
Oh, okay.
Since canceled.
Yeah.
It was loosely based on Hamlet.
Very loosely, because I don't know that there's a version of Hamlet that includes Roadhead in it. Like Roadhead plot line, even.
No. I mean, if you were a little bit more if you had better reading comprehension, you'd know that the original play...
No, Shakespeare had a lot of sex stuff in his play, I know.
Yeah.
As for me, listeners, know your shit. My show that is Comedy TED Talks. The next one is going to be August 17th, a week after this drops, at Tandem Bar at 8 o'clock. We have a great lineup. We have friend of the show, Nathan Lund, headlining, along with a bunch of other great people. So come check that out. And that'll be August 17th, and it's the third Saturday of every month. But judgment falls to me this episode. I gotta say, true crime is hard because it's like, oh yeah, someone actually died and suffered. But
I mean, to be fair, like, these episodes maybe have the lowest death toll of any episodes we've ever done.
I don't know about any, but yeah, like one at a time's not. It's a walk in the park comparatively.
Last episode, no one died.
Oh.
Well, they died eventually, but like...
Well,
Everybody
yeah, but like, that's just...
That's the thing we always want you to take from this podcast. We're all gonna die. Yeah. America, 2019. I think...
And also all other places and times.
Yeah, no.
We have our problems, but like, mortality is not a new one.
Fair. We're gonna die in worse ways. America, 2019. So part of me wants to go for the real history, but I am going to cast my vote for the alternate, partly because Kayla, making her debut, absolutely tackled that.
Hell yeah.
But listeners, voting is now open on Patreon, and check out Instagram for the last-ditch polling at the end of the week. But I think that'll do it for this episode, which, again, 4-year-old brain. I've been all over the fucking place.
We're all very busy this summer, so...
Zach, thank you.
Of course.
Caitlin, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
For everyone here at The Revisionists, I'm Brian Flynn. We'll just go with that, where I fuck up the name of the podcast.
I mean, if they've got this far, they probably know it. Look at your podcast. Look at your phone and see the little picture in the podcast app that you got there. That's the name of the show.
Don't listen to the dumb thing that just came out of my face.
And my name is Zach Powers.
Have a good time.